Grab some sample tiles at Home Depot. I'm using clay and marble tiles. I started by painting the edges of a long clay tile with bronze metallic paint. While that dried, I prepped my marble feet by popping small rectangles off their mesh backing and sanding away any leftover glue. To assemble the square trays, I used E6000 to bond two small rectangles back to back so the smooth sides faced out. I then glued these sets to the underside of a square tile, slightly in from the edges. For the large rectangular tray, I used epoxy glue to attach 4 marble rectangles as feet. I placed one at each corner and set a weight on top while they dried. These trays are perfect for adding height and texture to a dresser, mantle, or dining table. I hope this inspires you to grab some sample tiles on your next trip to the store.
Do you have boxes of leftover tiles and don't know what to do with them? Here's a quick and easy idea. Before you start anything, tear some strips of painter's tape and have at the ready on your table. Gather 5 of your leftover tiles. These can be any size as long as they are all the same size. Using a strong construction adhesive glue, run a bead of glue along one side of a tile. Holding that tile upright, press the upright side of another tile against the bead of glue, creating a 90-degree angle with the tile and with the tile pattern facing outward. Take a couple of pieces of painter's tape and wrap the glued edge. This will absolutely help you as you continue to glue pieces. Hold the tiles in place for a minute or two before going on to the next step. Once the box frame is completely dry and set, run beads of glue along each side of the back of the 5th tile. Set the box frame on top and adjust so the beads of glue align with the bottom of the box frame. Once set, take some felt furniture pads and stick to the bottom of the planter box, one on each corner. You could add soil and plant directly into the planter box, but I like to just pop a potted plant into the tile box so that drainage is never compromised. Once the potted plant is in, take some paper, crumple it up, and stuff it into the corners of the box. For the crowning touch, add some green moss to the top so you don't see the paper or any dirt underneath the plant. Display by itself or with other home decor items you have. I hope this inspired you to put these leftover tiles to good use and create a DIY tile planter box.
Today I'm going to show you how to turn your favorite fabric and some leftover tiles into something fun. For this project, you're going to need to remove these individual tiles from the mesh backing. These usually just pop off, and you can just pull the mesh right off from the back, because we don't need these attached. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to use 4 of these tiles. So I'm going to pull them off here. So I have my 4 tiles here, and I want to take my favorite fabric here, some beautiful blue and cream fabric, and I need to cut 4 pieces of this fabric that are larger than the tiles we're going to be using. And I'm going to kind of pick and choose where I want, because I want some of these beautiful flowers to show up right in the middle of my tiles. So I'm going to place my tile over top of that flower, like this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and loosely cut around that. Okay, I can trim this up in a minute, but as long as I have a piece that is bigger than what I need for right now, that's perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for all 4 of my tiles. Next up, I want to get ready to attach the fabric to these tiles. I'm going to go ahead and lay down a piece of wax paper on my surface so that I have something that I can clean up easily. And I'm going to use this to work with my tiles. I'm going to be using resin on these tiles later, so I want to make sure that my fabric is sealed before I put the resin on it. So I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge first, and that's going to adhere the fabric to my tile. I'm going to go ahead and place a nice generous coating of the Mod Podge on here, and this is going to hold my fabric in place. Now this tile that I've chosen, the hexagon, is a little going to be a little more difficult than a square tile because of the corners, but that's okay. I'm going to show you a little trick to get the corners nice and even in a minute. Okay, so once I have that nice thick coat on there, I'm going to lay my fabric down here wherever I like that pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and flip over my tile and just push it down, and I'm going to smooth that Mod Podge right out. And what I'm going to do is go right over the edge with my fabric, and I'm going to go do that on every side, just making sure that I have enough on there for it to stick down. And then you're going to put a layer of Mod Podge right over the top of your fabric. When we're working with resin, you want to make sure that your fabric, whether you're using fabric or paper, is nice and sealed so that the resin doesn't discolor some of the fabric or some of the paper. So this is just a trick to make sure that you get a nice clear coat of resin later. And then I'm going to turn this over, and I can actually pull those pieces back if I'd like, and use a piece of painter's tape to just hold them down in place. Then what I'm going to do to let this dry, I'm actually going to take just a little cup here that I reuse, and I'm just going to set that on top so that the air can get around to that and it can dry up. Now that the Mod Podge is mostly dry, I want to go ahead and trim off the extra fabric off the back of the tiles. I'm going to do it at this point and not wait until it's completely dry, because I want it to still be a little moldable if I need to stick anything back down. So I'm just going to move my other ones out of the way here. And I'm going to start by taking off the tape and just lifting up one little corner here that I had stuck down. I'm going to use a pair of sharp scissors first just to cut my fabric down. And then I'm going to take a straight knife, and with the coaster or the tile upside down, I want to take my knife and just slide it along on the back side to slice off any of this extra fabric here. So I'm just going to make sure I'm right down to the tile, and you'll see as I start working around, it's going to just cut off nicely at the edge, and I want to do that again so that I can make sure that those sides are nice and stuck before I move on, in case I need to apply any more Mod Podge on them. Now that the fabric is all nice and dry and everything is hard, it's time to start working with our resin. So each resin kit is going to be a little different, so make sure that you follow the directions on your resin kit. But generally it's 1 part hardener to 1 part of the resin. So you want to mix them 1 to 1. So I'm just going to set this aside while I'm getting my tiles and fabric ready, and that will eliminate some of those little bubbles that I've created in there by mixing. Okay, and you want to take some sort of disposable tray or an old cookie sheet, and I like to use the same little cups that I was using before, and I just put them inside. And then you want to set your tile right on top of that. You want to make sure it's nice and level and that there's no dirt or dust on there, because we're going to pour our resin and let it spill right over the edge. Okay, now that my resin has sit for a moment, I'm ready to pour it over, and I'm going to start pouring this over the tile. I don't need a very thick layer. And remember, you want to make sure whatever surface you're doing this on is really nice and even, because you want this to flow perfectly over the top. If you need to, you can always pick it up and just move it around a little bit, or you can use a stick to just gently push it towards the side of your tile. And as that starts going to the very side, it's going to start going right over the edge, and if you need to, you can always coax it over the edge a little bit. And you just want to double check and make sure that you've got all of that fabric covered with the resin, even those edges around the sides. You can also take your stick and just run it under that lip just to make sure that there's no drips coming down around your tile on the bottom. And you can take your hairdryer then and just give it a light blow on your lowest setting to get out any little air bubbles. It doesn't look like I have too many in here, but I'm just going to give it a quick blow just to make sure. And I can always come back, in half an hour, and make sure there are no little drips either. And there we go. We're going to leave that set, and it'll take about 24 hours for the resin to harden. The last thing I need to do to finish off my beautiful new coasters is add some little feet to the bottom. Because the bottom of tiles are pretty rough, I want to add some little feet just to protect the surface when I put these on. So all I'm going to do is take my glue gun, and in each corner I'm just going to add a little dab of glue. And these are gonna act like little feet. Once your glue isn't too hot, and just kind of push them down. You can also take them on a surface like my table here and just make sure it's going to be flat. I'm just gonna smush that around a little bit and then pop it back up, and my little feet will be perfect. Turning your favorite fabric into these fun coasters is such a great way to enjoy something that you love every day. I hope the next time you're looking to do something with your scrap fabric, you'll grab some tiles and think of these coasters.